Hello and welcome to Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Today I've got a bunch of stuff, not tons of stuff, but some stuff. I have knitting, I have spinning, I have a couple of finished things. I'm wearing the finished yellow sweater. Finally, I'm finished with it. Thank you to everyone who called it the Woolly Trisket. That's what its name is now. I've just been referring to it as the Woolly Trisket to everyone that I've shown it to. This is for Jordan. It's not for me, but I'm wearing it because it was sitting right here. It's finally dry. The sleeves are way too long, so I might shorten them. But if she likes them the way that they are, then we'll keep them. But otherwise, I'm a big fan of this big cardigan. I'm gonna put buttons on it. I haven't done that yet. I think I'm gonna put buttons on it. It has buttonholes, so they're not super obvious. Like if she doesn't want buttons on it, I can just not put them on there. But you know, I'd like to thank everyone for their kind messages that said, please record every week. Sorry, I didn't record last week. It was too busy. I just didn't have enough to show anyone. Also last weekend I went to a bachelorette in Philly, and I didn't really knit very much. So like I would have had very little to show all of you. So I just didn't record. But I got a lot done in the last 2 weeks. And I think for me right now, this is working better just because of, you know, like I used to spend most of my weekends knitting and spinning, and like a lot of evenings. But like, you know, as the pandemic obviously still happening, but like life is a lot more normal now. So also it's getting warmer. So like there's just more things to do outside. So obviously like a mix of like church music stuff, both in the evenings and on the weekends, means I have a lot less time to knit. Like, especially on Sundays, like I'm out all day. And sometimes I always bring my knitting with me, but I don't always knit, especially if I'm the one driving. So, yeah, it's just like a lot less gets done in 1 week than it used to, which is fine. It's okay to have different priorities. It's probably good and healthy. But yeah, next weekend is Maryland Sheep and Wool. So I might record a recap episode of that, like for Tuesday, at some point on like Monday, maybe next week. I might record some footage. I don't know. Just like going with a bunch of friends, and it may or may not, things may or may not get recorded. I'll try to remember to give one of them my phone and film me doing some stuff. Maybe, we'll see. But yeah, it's been a mildly productive 2 weeks. Okay, so I have some socks. I don't know if I showed these socks finished or in progress. I definitely showed both of them in progress. This is tangled. These socks, my socks that I thought I lost, Mrs. Bennett socks, these have been found and finished. There's 2. When I found them, I was probably just past the heel of the first sock, so I had to finish that, and then I didn't have the second one. But I really liked this colorway. I mean, I dyed it myself, so, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I really like this colorway. It's like whiskey rose. I don't know, I think that's what I called it in my head. I don't really sell dyed yarn very much anymore. I don't know if it had a tag, because sometimes I tagged them and then I just like kept all the yarn, because I only had like 2 or something of each colorway, and I just gave one to my mom and I kept one. My mom is knitting again, but she is not really working on socks. So she has like 10 skeins of sock yarn, maybe 10 and a half skeins of sock yarn that she still needs to work through from her Christmas present last year, which was every month. I gave her a box that had 12 pre-wrapped skeins of sock yarn. And like each one had a label of like open me on March 1st, open me on April 1st, etc. And so the whole year she got to open a skein of sock yarn on the 1st of every month. And I tried to make the colors seasonal. It was mostly the same colors I was using for my Jane Austen socks, like whatever that month was. But there were a few that were different. Anyway, because I had been, the year before that, 2021, I did the Farmer's Daughters Fibers sock squad. So I got a mystery skein of sock yarn every month, and there were 3 different bases. There was like a 75-25, an 80-20, and then they had the like merino nylon yak, which was really nice. And then I started buying the yak base to dye myself, because it's like a light brown, and so like naturally it's just like a light brown, and so when you dye on it, it has like everything is muted, and it looks really cool. So I have a few, at least There's the red one. I dyed 5 skeins of yak sock yarn, and I made the navy ones, and I made the green ones, the Mary Bennett socks in green. And so I have a like purple one still, like a mauve, and I still have like a bright red one, and I know that I dyed another one on it. Oh, it was dark brown, and I keep using it for heels and toes, that's why. Yeah, anyway, enough about my socks. These are not coming out for like a year, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I finished them. So that's exciting. And I found them and I finished them. Okay, these are the socks that I made with just like the Patton's Croy that I got in, I think it was in Boston. I went to Michael's with Lauren because she wanted to get yarn to make a big cozy blanket. And they had Patton's sock, and I was like, oh yeah, and it was 30% off. And I was like, I'll just get a couple skeins. And the skeins went in the wrong directions. Like, I used 2 different skeins, and I started from the middle, and they went like, I started with the dark gray, you can see on both cuffs, and one of them went dark gray, red, brown, light gray, the other went dark gray, light gray, brown, red. And they don't quite match up, even though they're the same number of rounds. So like, that's fine, it doesn't matter. I thought it was just really funny. Again, it just like it's not really a big deal. I just did afterthought heels on these, and I did them. I find Patton's Croy to be more of a sport weight, especially if you get the FX. I don't know what, it's like, which looks kind of like spin cycle or hand spun, though that's even thicker to me. It's just like puffier. But that's more of a sport weight. Both of those yarns are more of a sport weight. So I cast on 50, actually I cast on 48, and then it was too small, so I increased after the cuff to 56. And then I was using a size 2, US 2. So they fit fine. I was like, what's that sound? And I remembered I'm doing a massive load of laundry. It's the laundry draining into the laundry sink. So yeah, these are done. And they're just gonna go in my like gift box or sock bag. I have a big sock bag that's just mostly full of my Jane Austen socks that some of them have been photographed and they're just sitting there waiting to like be given away and or worn by someone, me, I guess, or they're like not photographed yet, but they're just like sitting there and none of them have ever been worn except unless I've put them on to photograph them. So yeah, my sock collection is building greatly. Anyway, this is an almost finished pair of socks and they're so ugly. I can't even. I just like grabbed a random skein of Felice because I have like 1,000 skeins of random Felice balls. That was redundant. I said skein and ball. Their Felice comes in a ball, if you're wondering. You don't have to skein it, or you have to ball it up yourself because it comes in a skein. This colorway itself is not that bad. It's called Lakeside Gelato. It's not great, but it's not terrible. But then I just used this like pink this is a hand dyed color that I don't know, I had like half a ball left of it, half a skein left, and I was like, oh, it'll go with that because of the pink. It's just like a lot. I also made these too small. Like I meant to do 15 stripes in each sock because you can do 15 stripes in each sock if you're using Felice, because there's usually 31.5 stripes in each sock. So if you want 2 identical, they won't be identical stripe sequences because there's usually 6 stripes in the sequence, but if you want the same length of socks with like full stripes, you can do 15 stripes per sock, and I did 12, which makes them matching, but short. So I don't have heels yet. I think I'm gonna give these to one of the kids. Like, I feel like the one who's turning 8 this summer would probably, she'd probably like these because they're, Clara would probably like them. Clara just turned 10. I should ask Clara what she wants. She has a lot of opinions. I remember when I first lived with them and I asked them what kind of sweaters they wanted, and I made Otto, he was so little then, he was like 3, I just made him like a super cute little teal and aqua sweater. He grew out of it instantly. I made him another one in the fall and it fit him. It was actually too big, thank God. So he could probably wear it for a couple years. And Clara wanted a dress and I made her it was so cute. It was like a short sleeve dress, white with like blue, like Selbu-ish stars. I used the Moraine pattern from Tin Can Knits, which is from Strange Brew, and I like made it to fit her, made little sleeve caps instead of making sleeves, and then I did a couple increased rounds to make a skirt, like a little fuller skirt, and it was so freaking cute, I can't even. At first I was like, I'm not making you a dress. And then I was like, oh no, this is so cute. I totally love it. So, and she wore it. And then Mabel got her sweater was like, it was like a merino single held with a Surrey alpaca. It was like the softest thing in the world. It was like a cloud. She loved it. The girls loved their sweaters and they wore them all the time. They all got new ones this year. Mabel got a pink one. I made the yoke too short though. I feel bad about that. I think it's fine. Clara got a sunset sweater, which was requested. I talked about this like 3 months ago when I made them. Maybe 5 months ago. I don't know how long ago that was. It was like, I gave them to them in, it was Lent one because they came to Evensong, so that must have been in like February. Anyway, that doesn't matter. It's been 10 minutes and I haven't really shown you anything else. Let's talk about my Selbu, or not Selbu, I keep saying that, my Sedestal sweater. Because I did what I set out to do and I got to the arm split. I can't remember. Okay, so last time I recorded, I had like maybe finished the color work at the bottom and started the lice. I can't remember because I know I showed it in my Woolly Thistle Shopcast segment that aired last Friday, and that I just had the bottom like color work started, but then I think I recorded my episode a different day. Sometimes I forget. When 2 weeks pass, I just forget. Like I have no idea. So anyway, it's like a whole thing now. It's okay. So again, I've got just like and this is a cardigan. There's the steek bridge right there. So it will be a cardigan. It's not now, not till I cut it. Oh, stitches, please don't fall off the needle. Not today. I don't need that today. So I did 2 bands here, identical surrounding this smaller band, or the slightly larger band. It is an OXO type of like stylized OXO, which is kind of cool. You can really tell in books about Scandinavian and Shetland knitting how much they influenced each other, because there was a lot of OXO in both, although it's less explicit in Scandinavian knitting. Especially in like places like Selbu, where they did a lot of more interlocking patterns and not like the all over stuff and not like bands. But in Sedestal, they were doing banded sweaters like they were in Shetland, except like a big feature of those sweaters was the lice patterning on, which you can see here. So lice patterning just means little flecks. It looks like falling snow. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. That's in my mind. I did the lice patterning pretty close together. Like I did a pattern, a color work round every other round. I could have done it every 3 or every 4, but I wanted to do it close together. I don't know. I didn't think very hard about it. That's what I did. I think there was probably a lice pattern chart in this book, and that's what it said, and I was like, great, I'm gonna do that. Usually I trust my instincts, and usually they don't lead me super astray. Sometimes they do, but like it's a pattern, it doesn't matter. I'm just going. Okay, so the next step here is to separate let's separate. Separate is what you do when you're knitting a top-down sweater and you separate the sleeves off from the body. I am going to add steeks at the armholes. That's what I'm going to do. So if you are unfamiliar with the construction of this type of sweater, which you may be, or you may not be, depending on how comfortable you are with like, Shetland and Scandinavian type of knitting. I've done this a bunch, so don't necessarily try this at home right away. It takes a while to get used to steeking. If you're gonna start steeking, I would recommend starting with like a top-down raglan cardigan, or like a bottom-up simple colorwork cardigan, whatever, top-down, bottom-up, something seamless, ideally, and just one steek right down the middle. And pick up the button band before you cut the steek open and reinforce your steek, unless you're using super sticky wool and you're just like really confident. Most people, when they cut their first steek, are not super confident that it won't unravel because you're cutting your knitting. So please do not feel freaked out if you or ashamed if you want to reinforce your steek, even if you're using really sticky wool like Lopi or Shetland wool. It's okay to reinforce your steek. You probably should reinforce your steek unless you're like very confident that you have done this a bunch and it's not going to unravel, which because like it's a lot to just take scissors to something that you've spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours doing. So I am probably not going to reinforce my steeks in this sweater. the last big Fair Isle sweater that I made was the Hilda jumper. I finished it last fall, right in time for Rhinebeck. So I finished it like last September or October. And I didn't reinforce those steeks, and I didn't do it because I didn't want to. It was because I couldn't find my needle felting tool, or it was broken or something. I had ended up getting a new one. I just couldn't find my pad and my felting tool. And so I was like, well, it's just Shetland wool. And I've done this before many times, cut many steeks, and I don't think it's gonna unravel. So I never cut the steek before picking up the stitches. It's just like a extra precaution for me. Like I want to be pulling. If I pull on anything and something gets tugged on and something pops out, I just want to do it before I cut that steek. Like if I'm gonna tug on it, I want it to be still one continuous yarn. So I try to pick up, you know, around the armholes, and then I'll cut, and then I'll pick up around the other armhole and I'll cut. I'll pick up around the neckband, I'll cut. I'll pick up the stitches around the button band, the button band. I'll pick up the button band stitches and then I'll cut. So pick up first and then cut if you're, again, just like a little bit nervous about it. So I just went on a really long tangent about steeking. Now I have to go back to explaining how to construct this sweater. Okay, so you start at the bottom, and well, what I did, if you've missed the first couple episodes where I talked about this, was I started at the bottom and the one by one ribbed hem flat. When I finished, here you can see the beginning and end. When I finished it, I just cast on 7 stitches for my steek bridge, and I joined it in the round. And I always purl the first and last stitches of my steek, so I always know that I'm picking it up in a straight line. I also added an extra column of plain knit stitches to the outside of my steek, which is the column I'm actually going to be picking up. That if you do that, I've never done that before, and I've always meant to, and every time I don't do it, I'm like, Emma, you know better than this. It doesn't interfere with the patterning, especially around the front of a cardigan, like on the front band, if you have like color work there, on the front like yoke or something, or like the bottom where there's color work, it won't interfere with that patterning. So because if you knit through the first stitch of the pattern, you're not gonna see that stitch because you're knitting into it and like creating a button band over it. Basically, it's going on the inside. So I figured I would do that because it will look really clean. If it's not gonna be monochrome because some rounds are plain white, but it's whatever the background color is. It doesn't really matter because you won't see it regardless. So I just then knit the body. You just knit in the round, always knitting the steek stitches, alternating if you can. Again, mine looks kind of, obviously it looks split because every other round here was just plain charcoal. If you didn't watch the last episodes about this, I'm using the dark colors charcoal. This is 81 J&S 2-ply, Jameson Smith 2-ply jumper weight, and 81. I have a cone. And then this, the gray is Rama Lamel Garn in color 12. So these are pretty interchangeable. Fennel Garn and Lamel Garn are really similar, except that Lamel Garn is, and they might be made with different, like lamb's wool. This might be lamb's wool. I don't speak Norwegian, so I don't know. It feels comparable to Fennel Garn, maybe a tiny bit softer, but it's thinner. So Fennel Garn is like 170, 180 yards for a 50 gram ball, and this is like 250, which is similar to J&S 2-ply, which is 125 for a 25 gram ball. So these are comparable in weight. They feel great in color work together. The J&S is a little crunchier, but that's because of the spinning oil. I don't wash, like I don't skein and wash yarn from a cone. I just knit with it. Usually I wind it into a ball or a cake and I knit with it because I don't want to carry the cone around because it falls over and it's annoying. If you are worried about that in coned knitting, just wind your cone into cakes, like one cake at a time, and just knit until the end of the cake and then wind up another one and it will be easier. And if you're worried about the spinning oil, changing your gauge, do a swatch, which I didn't do for this sweater, don't tell anyone. You can also just skein it up, like put it on your Swift if you have a Swift, or a Nitty Naughty if you're a spinner. Just like spin your Swift and like tie the end of the yarn on the cone to the end of the Swift or to one of the tines on the Swift and just like spin the Swift a bunch of times until you have a skein. Tie it off in at least 3 places, like figure 8 tie it off. If you've never done this before, you can Google it. Or I'll attach a video in the show notes or something. And then you can wash it, like soak it for a while, maybe in wool wash or mild wool soap is helpful because it'll help get the oil out. You'll notice it turns dirty. Spinning oil it's like Monica was washing her cardigan, her thistle cardigan. If you want to see Monica's thistle cardigan, go back to the episode where there's a thumbnail of me and Monica like losing our minds laughing. She talks about it there. She used J&S cones for that project. She's done. She is happy to show it off. She will show it off at some point. It's a busy time, so we need to find a like Friday to do that, or I'll just like video her while she's driving to church and she's wearing it and she can talk about it. Probably we won't do that because it's dangerous. Anyway, she washed it a couple weeks ago and she was like, Emma, the water was so black. And I was like, yeah, it's just like the yarn is slightly less processed when it's on a cone. That's why it's cheaper. It's okay. You feel close to the sheep. She was like, you. But I was like, don't worry, you cleaned it all out. You can rinse it twice if you need to. Just give it another wash. She was fine with it. It looks amazing. She had it on the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, it looks really good. She and I are gonna do we have plans to like knit a bunch of the same sweaters. Like she keeps changing her mind. I'm like, you just tell me, like I'll do whatever. Neither of us have that much knitting time though, and I just have like 5 or 6 like weirdly big projects on the needles that I need to kind of like wrap up. So we were gonna do a Svensson cow, like where we were gonna knit the Jared Flood Svensson pattern, which is like a DK weight cabled sweater. And then we're gonna knit the Paul Clay sweater. At some point, all scraps are in my basement so we can knit those, but like when, no one knows. That won't even take long. It's like a color work yoke sweater. Like that will not take a long time, but somehow we have to get ourselves to actually do it. And then now she's like, let's knit like Marie Wallen patterns so that we can like fit, like really fitted Fair Isle like cardigans, because she really likes to make really fitted things. And I'm like, okay, so I'm okay with doing that because I really want to challenge myself to convert a Marie Wallen flat shaped pattern into one with steeks everywhere, including like set-in sleeves where you have to make a steek for the sleeve caps as well, and then you set it in. You just sew it in. I have done a set-in sleeve on a Fair Isle. It was a drop shoulder. It was my lap wing, and it looks really neat. I didn't think it would look good, and it looks very neat, and it fits. The sleeve fits into the body perfectly, and that was like the least of my troubles with the lapwing sweater. The neck bit, I still don't like the way the neck fits. It looks like a boat neck and it's like the shape is really weird. And like I did something stupid and knitted the bottom band on a smaller needle, or then changed it instead of ripping it out. Anyway, you can't tell if I'm wearing it. It doesn't look bad, but like I thought the sleeve was gonna be like the biggest issue, and it just was not. Wow, I thought this was gonna be a short episode and it's totally not. Okay, so where was I? Right, you knit a bunch of 15-ish inches for me. That's this armpit to hem is approximately 15 inches on a sweater like this. You will have your own measurement. The nice thing about designing this is that you get to just knit until you want to, but you can't try it on because this is not a top-down sweater, so you have to be careful with that too. Maybe do some careful measurements, or measure a sweater that you like wearing and you want to make a sweater that kind of fits similarly. You could do that, and then just try to recreate the shape of that sweater based on the gauge of your swatch and stitch counts and stuff. Oh my gosh, the sun's coming out. Maybe it's supposed to rain all weekend, and it poured yesterday just like all day. It was nasty. Whatever. Okay, so then this is the part I'm at now. So I'm doing a little bit of patterning up here. I think I'm going to do 2 pattern bands with, again, the black is the background color and the white is the pattern color. Which you can sort of see. I'm gonna do one more, I think zigzags. And then then what you do is from the front, you split the sweater into halves. So there's a front half and a back half. So you put markers at each side markers. So you want a quarter, and then half around, like a quarter on each side of the front steek and then half on the back. There's probably gonna be a couple more stitches on the front because you'll probably have an odd number because I have extra stitches on the front so that the pattern will be symmetrical and match when it goes all the way around. So then you, well, what I do is I get to the marker there at the side, and I try to do about 7 stitches. 7 is a hard number because it's not even, so maybe I'll do 8. I'll take off 4 stitches on either side of the side marker, and I will put them just on waste yarn, and I will cast on a steek bridge in its place while I'm knitting. So I won't knit those 8 stitches. I will just put them on hold, cast on. For me, I do 7-stitch steek bridge with fingering weight yarn, or jumper weight yarn, 4-ply, whatever you like to call it. And then, so there's a steek at that armhole. I work across the back. I do the same thing on the other armhole. Arm side is what it's called if you want to be technical. And then keep working around to the front. At that point, I'm gonna switch so that the background color is white and the foreground color is black. And I have to do some measuring and see how many rounds I want to do to get the height, arm side height that I want, so that the sweater has the yoke length that I want and it fits. So that'll probably be like 6 or 7 inches. So to do that, I'm just gonna measure this bottom band, see how many inches that is, basically see how many rounds, like vertical rounds per inch you get, multiply that by 7-ish, give or take, and then choose bands from the book, which is the book I'm using, and I will flash you. I don't want to show a close-up, but I'm going to flash the pages I use. So this is the part of the book about the Sedestal jumpers, which is cool. And then there's a page here, 2 pages of patterns. So you can literally just start at the bottom and work your way up if you want on any of them. I'm going to probably choose, I haven't decided. I don't think I'm going to do this exact band in the top anywhere. I considered it, like, you know, reversing it. But I think I'm going to do, I've been looking at a lot of pictures, like on Ravelry of Sedestal sweaters, just to see like what seems normal. Like, I don't think most of them are symmetrical. Like, they have like a few small bands. A lot of them have one big band, and then they have like more small bands, and sometimes the small bands are sort of symmetrical. But I think I'm going to do 2 small bands here, and then I'll probably separate them by like, yeah, I'll probably separate them by a line, and then I'll do a bigger one, like these little stars or something, I don't know. And then maybe like, I don't know, I need to figure out how many rounds. Like, I don't know if I want to do like a 12 round one and then a 16 round one, and then like a couple more like 4s. Again, like, and there's plain rounds in between, you gotta separate them. So I don't know if I want to go back to the black with background with the white at the top. It's complicated, but I am gonna do like on the sleeve, I'm gonna echo whatever I do before the yoke split, just at the, if you can see this, it's really small. Like at the top of the sleeve here, I am gonna do a tiny bit of patterning there to echo what's on the, like the part of the body just before the yoke split, which is what I'm doing right now. So that'll be fun. Yeah, again, hopefully, I don't know if maybe I'll probably record next week. If I have any progress, I probably will, because I've been working on this, but I'll explain why I might not in a second. I'll show you. So I have to finish another Fair Isle project in like the next month, because I'm knitting, I don't have to, but I think I'm gonna try, because I would like to have it done. I'm knitting a cowl. It's like, I've shown it before. It's pink, purple, and blue. And it's just a Fair Isle cowl. It's like a sample of a cowl I've already knitted and designed. I'm knitting another sample for my friend Bonnie, who is going to Scotland in the fall, and she commissioned it. Once again, if you, please don't, you can't commission things from me if you don't know me. Please don't. Bonnie is a dear friend who I love. And so she was like, I'm going to Scotland. I would love a cowl, like, you know, whatever, you know, and I asked her the color she wanted, and she told me she likes pink and purple and blue, and I was like, great. So I don't even think I've sent her a sample of the pattern. I've done a bunch of it, but I know I can make a cowl in like a week if I really put my mind to it. It's not gonna take a week, it's gonna take 3 weeks, maybe 4, but I'm gonna do it before, because I'm going to Toronto on June 1st, and I might see Bonnie, and if I don't, I'm gonna give it to someone who's gonna see her, and I need to have it done. Like, it's a deadline for me, and I know that I'll do it with a deadline. So I'm gonna finish that cowl this month. I'm saying this publicly on the internet so that I do it. And then, so I might take a small hiatus, or just, maybe I'll work on both. I don't know, it depends what things look like for the next few weeks. But I have one other project that I started for the White Thistle Shawl Cowl. I started, oh, let me show you so it's from line of 4, which is my favorite line. And it's a shawl called Ito. And it's hard to see what it looks like if you just look at that. It doesn't show the shape very well, but it's knitted in, it's knitted in Pocholopi, 6 colors of Pocholopi. Someone said the winter was harder than in a long time, but she hadn't even noticed the cold thanks to her shawl knitted out of rustic Icelandic wool. Protected by the soft folds of Melody Hoffman's shawl, even Monday felt like Sunday. I don't want Monday to feel like Sunday, because I'm a church musician. Only one day of the week is allowed to feel like Sunday. And Sunday, you don't even want to know what my Sundays look like. But that's charming. Melody Hoffman is a French knitwear designer based in Riga, Latvia. She's mandarines. I thought that was bee mandarine. She has a unique way of finding beauty in everyday life and naturality. That rustic beauty is also written in her Ito, an asymmetrical shawl that plays with different shades of brown. It is like a soft study of Pocholopi and unspun yarn by the Icelandic Istex. That's the company. It is the one that shields you from cold winterly winds for years and years to come. It is really nice. And I actually bought the 6 colors that it suggests in Pocholopi years ago to knit the shawl. And it's really fun. You like start at one corner. It's just like garter and lace. It's actually the same lace pattern as my Jane Bennett socks, which is fun. A lot easier, and it looks really different and like a big, this is like big, you know, I'm knitting this on like size 7 needles or something, and my Jane Bennett socks are knitted on a size 1 needle, so it looks very different. And you like start with the lightest color, then you like start incorporating these little tiny bits of the next color in, and because it's Pocholopi, you literally can just break it, I mean, and like water splice it or spit splice it in, which takes a minute, but it's a really nice effect to kind of like fade the next color in, and then you do a section of the next color where you're fading in the next color, and you like you're bringing in the lighter color a little bit, and then you go to the next color. It's really nice, and it grows pretty fast, but I only worked on it for like 1, maybe 2 mornings. So I'm on the 2nd color right now, and I kind of messed it up a bit just in the color scheme, so I need to, I'm not gonna undo it because it's Pocholopi, it'll just disintegrate. But you can see here it's like there's the lace pattern, so there's like a little bit of that darker brown coming in here, which is really hard to see, but it is there. And then I switched to the darker brown when I wasn't actually supposed to, because the pattern, the written pattern says one thing and the chart says another thing. What the only other big error in the pattern is that it says to start with color A and go then to color F. And so if you start with color A, use the least amount of color A, like use like maybe 5 grams of it. But in the pattern, it says you need 60 grams of color A and only 10 grams of color F. So it's opposite. So I'm starting with the lightest and then going into the darkest. And there's a little bit of the next color that'll start to creep into this garter section here. So this is the 2nd lightest color. It smells really sheepy. If you've never knitted with Pocholopi, people are a little afraid sometimes of it because it's unspun. That you can still knit with it. Like that's still, I mean, it's thinner than pencil roving, but it's like, you know, I could spin this. I could just sit at my wheel and like not draft it all and just spin it. Like just like let the twist in and then, you know, release it onto the bobbin. But it doesn't fall apart. You don't want to tug really hard. I don't tension my yarn, so like it's not really an issue for me. It has broken before, like especially if you're like sitting on the cake or something and you pull and like it just breaks. You just, you know, spit into your hands and it's not, yeah, it's so easy to splice back together. And if you don't want to spit, just keep a little glass of water next to you and dip your fingers into the water and then, but some people say spit works better. I don't know if that's true. It doesn't matter. I still remember when Monica sent me the sweater she knitted me for my birthday a few years ago from when it was when I had pneumonia in DC. It was right before I started Tiny Desk Knitting, actually. It was my 27th birthday. And Monica sent me a sweater where she was living in Dallas and she knitted me this sweater. And she was like, she said there's something hilarious in the card, like, there's a ton of my spit in this sweater because she'd spit spliced it. And I was like, it's okay. You know, you washed it. So I'm not worried. But anyway, oh, and it has my little beer stitch marker. Sarah got me these stitch markers, or like Progress Keeper stitch marker, whatever. I like it because it has a ring you can open, so you can use it as a stitch marker or a Progress Keeper. And it's like 5 or something little, stop looking at my face, maybe it will focus. It's just like a beer can. There's 5 of them now, so they're all different beers. It's funny. She was like, you have everything. I wanted to get you something. I hosted a mending workshop at my house for her friends, and because we have like a dining room table, and she got me this as like a thank you. She was like, you have everything. I didn't know what to get you, so I got you beer stitch markers. And I was like, I love these, and I don't have them, so thank you. Okay, so last time, now we're gonna talk about spinning. Last time I had my yarn from Hello Yarn on the wheel. I had my fiber from Hello Yarn on the wheel that was like kind of murky autumny colors, maybe end of wintry colors. I don't know what the inspiration for the color was, if it was supposed to be seasonal or not, but it was like grays and lavenders and rust colors and like a dark green and a little bit of like fuchsia. It was a lot in one thing, but I was like, cool, and I'll do a 2-ply fractal. And I thought that I was probably gonna end up with a fingering weight, and I ended up with 750 yards. So apparently I spun it to a lace weight. Here it is. I did not anticipate that, but it did take a long time to spin it, so I must have just been drafting really thin. I spun it on my electric eel 6, which allows me to get a much finer and usually more consistent draft than my matchless, just because I love the matchless. I love spinning on the wheel, but the e-spinner you can spin sitting anywhere, which is nice, and you just plug it in, and it's just like I gravitate right now in this time of my life towards the electric wheel, just because it's portable. I don't know, I'm really looking for consistency, and it's better than the wheel in terms of that. So I'll open it up. I just washed it and grabbed it off the drying rack, so it's no longer wet. I did not set it while it was wet. This is merino. It is so bouncy. And again, there's just insane yardage on this. Like, I can't really even figure out what to do with it. I might like hold it double with some mohair and make like I don't know. I mean, I could make like a full top with this, like a full shirt, because there's so many yards. Maybe I'll do that. It would be really loose, but it might be pretty. I mean, kind of, why not? You know, it's one of those things. When you spin yarn, you get really good at rescanning yarn. Fun fact. This is not a very pretty skein though. But yeah, I like this. Again, I was surprised at the yardage. It's pretty loosely plied. You can really tell, like, I don't think it's super balanced, but that's okay. You know, we live and we learn. Maybe I'll just, some of it is more tightly plied. Like, there's a section here that looks like it's pretty solidly plied. And it may just be like the way it's pulled when I twist it into the hank. I don't know. It's gonna be a while before I do anything with that. I actually thought about holding a double and making socks, like DK house socks. I put like 2 pairs, there's so much of it. Probably like 3 pairs, there's so much of it actually. But anyway, that is fun. If you have any suggestions for what to make, drop them in the comments. Okay, so my next spin is also merino. I just grabbed this out of the basement. I grabbed a few and I like texted Monica and I was like, which one? And she was like, the blue. And I was like, great, I'll do the red. So this is a merino from, I want to say I got it from BZB. I got it from like one of the suppliers where I usually just get bear yarn or bear wool fiber. But they had a dyed merino and it was combed. I think it was BZB. And this is, it just was 4 ounces of merino. This is called Mojave. and it is mostly red with like some beautiful oranges and like a black and this like twilight purpley navy thing going down the middle. It's funky. So I was like, I want to see how that spins up, because it reminded me of John Arbin, like the way that they give you combed top. Like there's so many colors within it. And then when you like see it in the skein, you're like, you can see all those colors a little bit, but they're so blended beautifully. So this is my first bobbin, and this is what it looks like. So fiber, single. I'm trying to spin this a little bit thicker. I'd like to get like a Sport DK, like 300-ish yards on the skein. Again, I don't know. Some of it, it's not incredibly consistent. I just haven't been spinning that much, so it's not incredibly consistent, but it's fine. It's something. Yeah, there's like some, it's really fun to spin it and like see what the single is looking at as it comes out of your hands as you're drafting. And to like try and change it based on like, because I spin across the top usually when I'm spinning something like this. I don't pre-draft it just because you want to keep the colors, you know, mixed. That's the whole point. Like you could try and tease them out and do like a long strip of the blue and like have it look fractal, but they combed it for you so that you didn't have to do that. Like if you wanted to do that, you shouldn't buy top that's all combed together in different colors, because the whole point of the combing machine is that it mixes them up, so you can't do that. So yeah, I think I'll start the second bobbin maybe sometime today. I'm still working on the 3-ply Polworth silk on Thelma. I really have not touched that in a few weeks, but you know, it's there. I should probably spin at the wheel a little bit more just to like reinforce the practice of spinning at a wheel with a treadle, because I feel like I'm getting lazy. But I used to spin in the mornings. Like I used to like get up and spin at the wheel as like a way to kind of wake my body up, like just because I was sitting, I had to sit up, I had to treadle, like you have to focus. I could watch TV while I did it, but you know, I was pretty focused on the spinning, and it was a nice practice. But now I'm just kind of like, I'm trying to get up later because I've still been like waking up at 4 a.m. and then like eventually going back to sleep. And so I usually don't set my alarm till 7. I don't get out of bed until then, which just gives me a little less time. Like when I was getting up at 6, like sleeping through the night and getting up at 6, then it was easier to have like 2 full hours to do something before work, before I started getting ready for work. So like I would spin for an hour and then I would like go knit. But usually now I just want to knit or like whatever. Usually knit. Sometimes I just like am lazy and I just like mess around on the internet. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I've just had a busy few weeks. Lots going on, you know, with work and church music stuff. So a little less time for knitting, but again, I'm not really upset about that. I think on the whole, it's probably healthy to have multiple hobbies and like not burn out my hands like physically knitting. Oh my gosh, I got a small injury on my right thumb. I grated myself on the cheese, or was it my left thumb? I grated myself on the cheese grater because I changed hands. I was grating pizza cheese and I was like, it was frozen. It was like frozen mozzarella, and so my right hand was really cold, and it was really tired. My arm was really tired, so I was like, let me just switch to my left hand. And then like immediately I just grated my thumb because I have no control over what I do with my left hand apparently. And so I've been like when I'm knitting in color work is when it's the problem. If I'm just knitting with one color, it's fine. But when I'm knitting with 2 colors, and I like drop a yarn, it's like something to do with like dropping the yarn and then knitting into the stitch. Sometimes my right needle pokes the little scar or now it's just a scab, but it still hurts. It hurt way more like Wednesday and Thursday, and then yesterday it wasn't so bad, and it's healing a little bit more every day. So soon I will not be opening my wound anymore when I'm knitting color work. But yeah, so it's been raining here, so probably do a lot of knitting today, just kind of hang out, especially when I have busy Sundays now. I really try to give myself some time on Saturdays to like not do so much stuff, to kind of run my errands and get myself together for the next week, because like if I'm out, like Mom and I leave at like 6:30 on Sunday mornings, and we usually don't get back until like 6. Tomorrow it'll be late because there's a wedding at the church that we had to sing for someone in the choir, which is a good thing. It's very exciting. But it's like a full day of church and then wedding, and then we'll drive back and it will be late. So yeah, not a lot of knitting. Or like, and then you get home and you just don't want to do anything because it's like, you're exhausted. So yeah, the weather has been really fluctuating here. It was really warm, and it got cold again, then it got warm again, and now it's been chilly all week, which is, you know, nice. I put my winter clothes away, but I still have a few pairs of pants out, and I also, my sweaters are always under my bed, so they're always accessible. So I just grab a sweater if it's chilly. It's fine. Tomorrow is probably like my last sweater day. Well, no, Maryland Sheep and Wool next Saturday is not supposed to be warm. It's supposed to be like high of 67, so I'll probably be able to wear a sweater to Maryland Sheep and Wool, which is like, last year was raining the whole day. It was kind of gross, and it was also cold, and I'm like, May, like the first weekend in May in Maryland should be 75 degrees and gorgeous. Like 2 years in a row. Like I don't know what it's gonna be like next Saturday. Nitin was like, it might rain, and I was like, damn, like not again. It's just like, you want to spend all day like being excited looking at sheep and eating delicious corn dogs. The best corn dog I've ever had was at Maryland Sheep and Wool last year. And like, if it's raining, it's just kind of like puts a little bit of a damper. Like you want to be outside, like touching the sheep and seeing the dogs and like all that. And so anyway, it'll be fine. We're gonna have a great time regardless. All the fiber pals together. So if you're going to Maryland Sheep and Wool, I will be there on Saturday. Please say hello. Sunday will not be there because I will be at church all day as usual. But yeah, say hi. I want to see what you're knitting and hear about you, because you know all about me. So I gotta wrap this up because my mom is gonna call me when she walks the dog in 20 minutes. So yeah, I might take a walk because it's not actively raining right now. Yeah, it's really nice to have a like gym at school because I can go to the gym if it's raining still and like go for a run and like stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna go walk, and I'm gonna call my mom. So thank you so much for watching. You can like and subscribe, ring the bell if you want to be notified. I always post my episodes on Tuesdays. Right now it's every other Tuesday. I might go back to every Tuesday someday, but right now I don't get enough knitting done in the week to do an episode every Tuesday. So stay tuned. Yeah, so I said thank you for watching already. Thank you for watching again. This has been Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Bye.